When Vice President Dick Cheney's chief of staff, Louis Scooter Libby, was found guilty of perjury and obstruction of justice in 2007, each of the convictions came down to the simple fact Libby had lied. He lied to a grand jury and FBI investigators about what he knew regarding Valerie Plame, the undercover CIA agent outed after her husband debunked the Bush administration's claims concerning Saddam Hussein and weapons of mass destruction. New details about the case and those who could have easily ended up alongside Libby facing prosecution are among the stories told by my guest in his new book. Joining me now, James Stewart, the author of Tangled Webs, How False Statements Are Undermining America, from Martha Stewart to Bernie Madoff. Thanks for joining me tonight, Jim.
Nice to be here.
How did Scooter Libby get caught up in that investigation, and why was he the only one caught lying? Surely he was not the only one who at some point lied.
Well, he wasn't. And indeed, one of the extraordinary things is if he hadn't lied, he never would have been charged, because he was not a source for the notorious column by Bob Novak that outed Valerie Plame as a CIA agent. The actual sources were Karl Rove in the White House and Richard Armitage in the State Department. But Scooter Libby had outed her to other reporters. He was doing his best to get the story out. He told first Bob Woodward and then Judy Miller at the New York Times. They didn't write the story, but he then lied, saying he had never leaked her identity. Was there something instinctual going on? Because you look at the Libby case and you say, this is a trained lawyer. It's his first time as a criminal subject of an investigation. You would think that he would get his steps exactly right, know exactly what he could say and what he couldn't say, and not risk the most dangerous thing in any one of those investigations, which is the perjury count. Absolutely. I mean, it's really incredible. And many people have asked me, like, who is the best liar in your book? Well, I think the real question is, who is the worst? And Scooter Libby very well may be the worst. I mean, I think anyone knows if you're going to lie, try to stick close to the facts and then just deviate when you have to. He created a whole parallel universe. None of it made any sense. He was contradicted by no less than 9 other officials in the Bush administration, even his own assistant. The story did not hold up at all. It was made up out of whole cloth. And he repeated the story over and over again, the grand jury, to FBI agents, even when he was warned that his story had already been contradicted by his main other corroborating person, who was Tim Russert of NBC.
Now, what about the Rove element? Here is someone who was brought back to the grand jury multiple times, which is a fairly rare occurrence, as federal prosecutors will tell us, that this is unusual. But it seemed like Patrick Fitzgerald was trying to be as careful as he possibly could and not going anywhere near an indictment that might not be an absolute lock on a guilty.
Well, Patrick Fitzgerald, amazingly, was criticized for being overzealous. Republicans piled on him, said he was on a partisan witch hunt. He should never have indicted Libby. I have a lot of respect for his judgment in this case, and the work he did. It was tremendous. But if anything, he could be criticized, I think, for being too lenient. He came within a hair's breadth of getting an indictment of Rove. The FBI agents voted unanimously that he shouldn't be indicted. They did the same thing with Richard Armitage. And he did not seek the indictment. But he did do something I reveal in the book, which I think is pretty extraordinary. He wrote a letter to President Bush summarizing the evidence against Rove, I believe with the assumption that Bush himself would take immediate steps to remove Rove from responsibility, and he never did that.
So this was at the completion of the investigation that he sent that letter
Yes.
to the president?
After the decision was made not to go to the grand jury to seek an indictment of Rove, Fitzgerald did do a letter to the president, as I said, bringing to attention the very serious evidence.
Well, he was sending a letter to a president who had said, I would get rid of anybody who lied about this.
Absolutely. He said he would get rid of anyone who leaked, and he would get rid of anyone who lied about it. When given evidence that Rove both leaked and lied, and by the way, the most extraordinary thing is that the evidence strongly suggests that Rove lied to President Bush. Bush asked him point blank, were you a source for the Novak column? He said, well, I spoke to Novak, but the subject of Valerie Plame never came up. That's not what he told a grand jury. And the FBI agents and Fitzgerald actually considered whether lying to the president itself is a crime under Section 1001.
I could go on and on about this. James Stewart, the author of Tangled Webs, thank you very much for joining me tonight.
Thanks.